Rain. It will bring either sorrow or joy, which is what old folks say. Some love it. It will help water the crops. Some hate it. Sometimes it will take lives. But some have both feelings. It will hide your tears. A tip from a funny man. Now, I will tell you a story of a woman who mothered 2 significant boys. Rose was her name, 27 at the time. She was married to a baker named Gon, 25 of age. Married life is not all about honey and bread all the time. There is also hardships. An exhausting family life always feels light when parents get to spend time with their child. Rose and Gon named their firstborn Joey. He was an angel who was as curious and joyful as any other child would be. But there would be something rather peculiar with this child. This child was an observer from the day he was born. He could see way better than normal newborns. When the grandmother held the baby for the first time, the little Joey was staring right back at her. There was no darkness in his eyes. Instead, there was light. The grandmother knew that moment what could become of the boy, for she was a woman of great ancient wisdom. She was right, for the child was loved by the light and was fated to die of early age. The family fought an unending battle in every day of their lives. The parents worked hard to keep their child alive, and Joey fought his own battle to live too, visiting hospitals almost every week had even part of their routine. The boy had a weak heart, a lung problem, and had trouble eating. There would always be gloominess in the parents' heart whenever they see their child suffering. It was not part of the story, but there was this one guy who was pals with my father. His son also had a bad heart condition. One time, they were drinking in our house. It was my first time to see a man on the verge of crying. Or was he? I couldn't even remember it clearly, but these were his words as far as I could remember. Sa tuwing nakikita ko yung anak kong nahihirapan, sabi ko, Panginoon, kunin mo na ang anak ko. Pag nakita ko siyang sinusumpong ng sakit niya, parang pinupunit ang puso ko. That man's boy was now married. Their battle is still going on until this very moment, but not Joey's. Joey's battle ended 21 years ago. The millennium ended, and so was the boy's life. His body grew weaker and weaker, for he couldn't eat anymore. Everything that went in his body, he vomited them back. In the time that the flare of his life was almost a flicker, his mother was always beside him. She long knew what will become of his son. Despite of that, she took good care of their child daily, for she knew that the boy's days were numbered. Joey saw the struggles of his mother as much as the mother saw the burden of her child. As Joey observed the world from his very last moments, he saw descending beams of light and people in white. His mother was sitting on the side staring him blankly. Only the noise of the doctor and nurses could be heard. The mother and son are relatively silent and was staring at each other. The world grew dim in the boy's vision. Joey remained a Joey for the rest of his life. Rose, on the other hand, as she walked back home, felt nothing. I remember her telling me she felt no grief or sadness at the time, even the urge of mourn for his son. Grief never touched her. Rather, she felt the need to take a shower and sleep. And slumber she did. It seems like there was a voice telling her, "Rest, for you've done your very best until the end." That's the last thing her sanity would recall, for she was very depressed, quiet, no appetite, sleep deprived, she did. The day of her child's burial arrived. The heavens grieved, for it was raining. That was according to the old folks. Rose came back to her senses. For the last time she saw her child inside a coffin. She was like of a sleeping angel, she uttered. So there were the mother's tears falling from her eyes. Full of fear, she was afraid that by being too excited, God would take another of her child. Bearing these fears, they prayed continuously for the safe birth of their soon-to-be-born child. Little did they know that there was something bound to happen. For the first year of the millennium, the 3rd day of the 7th month, Rose was in the hospital. Nothing changed. A year passed since the firstborn was gone. Another son came. Another peculiar child, if I must say, was about to be born. Rose bore another child, but unlike the firstborn, Joey, she was rather unmoved by this one. Mirth failed to fill her heart. Before she gave birth, there were some strange events occurring around them. There were severe rain outside to the point that electricity has been cut. The mother, Rose, felt rather cold while doing her routine at that time. While she was doing it, there was this old lady that was eyeing her. Shortly after that, the lady approached her and said, "Child, you are burning." The old lady peered even closer. She placed her hand above Rose's head and said again, You sure are burning. It is about the time you gave birth." Rose couldn't even believe it is because the doctor said she would give birth several days after. In the half of the 7th hour, Rose started to labor. After the 7th hour on the 1st year of the millennium, the 3rd day of the 7th month, the half of a month's entity was born. The child, in fact, was a demon of some sort. Once in every millennium, a child would be born with the blessings of both night and day. The child would receive 3 seals that have significant number of 3 of them. The child's seals can be found in his soul, mind, body, which incorporate the number of the beast. For what the child's purpose, I don't know. But I know that death was on his feet, ready to drag him down at any moment. For now, he inherits the title of his brother, the Observer, and is slowly understanding what humans is. Now, we know what will be the boy's name. About around the time the family argued about naming him, Rain was the most likable name for the moment of his birth. It was raining, and the rain was considered a blessing according to the old beliefs. Moments passed, but the name couldn't be decided, almost like there was something hindering them to do so. In the spur of the moment, something that seemed like a tiny voice whispered an idea in the head of Rose's sister. Why don't we name him after his father? And that boy was almost named Rain, and now called Little Amor.